You are listening to the Self-Trust Solution Podcast with Dawn Lede, episode number 117. Welcome back. Today, we're honored to have Andelin Price with us. Andelin is not only a wife and mother of 6, but also a musician and co-host of the Marriage Bites podcast. With nearly 25 years of marriage experience, she has dedicated herself to helping couples navigate the complexities of relationships. Today, she'll be sharing her insights on how redefining boundaries can transform our connections with loved ones. Let's dive in. Welcome, Andelin.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So you specialize in relationships and you have a really unique approach when it comes to boundaries. Tell me how you see people getting boundaries wrong.
First of all, people think that other people are supposed to keep their boundaries. That's a big thing that I see people saying, I set a boundary, my husband is not keeping my boundary, or my mother-in-law is not keeping my boundary. And that is a completely backwards way of thinking about it. But we think that I set a boundary and now it's everybody else's job to keep my boundary. In reality, it is your job to keep your own boundary.
So what is the difference between a boundary and, say, an agreement?
An agreement is something that two people come together and both decided will happen. For example, if you and your spouse sit together and say, okay, if I cook dinner, it's only fair that you clean up. And the other's, yeah, fine. Because when I cook, then you clean. Is a really common agreement. That's not the same thing as a boundary. It's when the agreement is not kept. For example, if I cooked and then my husband went downstairs to play Minecraft on the computer, then he did not keep up his end of the agreement that we had both made. And then at that point, it's my decision to decide, how do I want to respond to this situation, to him not keeping up his end of the agreement? When we were newlywed, there was a couple who lived just down the way from us. And they told me that they just used paper plate. Like they couldn't make a decision about who should wash the dishes. So instead, they just made an agreement to use paper plates all the time. Solve the problem for them. So sometimes we can get creative. Sometimes you amend the agreement. Sometimes you say, okay, this agreement isn't working. You just figure out, why is this not working? And how can we make it work better? But a boundary is crucial between the space where the agreement has been not upheld and the creation of the new agreement. And so I can set a boundary to protect myself, to protect my feelings.
So boundaries, the way that you work with them, are ways that we can take care of ourselves and protect our relationship when agreements are not being upheld.
Because a boundary is always going to be about what I choose to do in response to another person's behavior or lack of behavior. I always set it up in my mind as an if-then statement. And then, so it's a decision of a choice that I'm going to make, that I'm going to decide to do or not do, for example. And so it's, if this happens, then I will decide how I want to handle that. It's always best if it's choice-based rather than like victim mentality. Oh, he made me do that, because that's not really a very healthy boundary. If it's coming from a place of blaming or not taking responsibility for your side. So a good healthy boundary really does help you take more responsibility for yourself and stop trying to control the other person. In the dishes example, if my husband went downstairs to play Minecraft and I went and I stood and I was nagging and I was being mean and trying to control and trying to get him to do what I want, then that hurts the relationship. And that's not healthy for me and it's not healthy for him. So I really try to make sure that when I'm thinking about what boundary I want to set, that it's good for me and good for the other person, so that it's healthy for all of us. What creates a win situation here, rather than like, how do I get what I want? How do I show love to this person and love to myself?
So how does one set a healthy boundary?
I love asking myself the question, what does love look like in this situation? what would be the most loving thing for me to do? Loving for all of us, because I really think that healthy boundaries need to come from a place of love. It's also take responsibility for your part. I think it's really important to self confront and say, how did I contribute to this dynamic? What can I change in my actions to interrupt the pattern that we've been playing out? So it's choice based, it's loving and compassionate to the best that you can. I understand that when somebody did something that disappoints you or that hurts you, it's really hard sometimes to be compassionate, which is where I've found so much help from getting coaching. The coaching session helps me find compassion, helps me see the situation from other perspectives so that I can let go of the resentment or whatever's getting in the way so that then I can figure out what is the most loving thing to do.
If someone doesn't really understand what boundaries are and they want to set a healthy boundary, what might you say to them?
The whole framework begins with expectation. A lot of times we expect things of other people, but we don't necessarily say it out loud. We don't necessarily even realize what our expectations are until they have been broken by somebody. I don't know, the toilet paper roll facing in or out. It was always a certain way in my house growing up, but it was always the other way in his house growing up. And so that's the way it goes. And I'm like, oh, that's the wrong way. You know what I mean? It's a little tiny thing, but I wouldn't have thought of that until somebody put the toilet paper roll on the wrong side. So sometimes we're even surprised by our expectation. I would say start by understanding what your expectations are.
Mm.
Sometimes we express those expectations to each other. Sometimes we don't. If a spouse is not meeting your expectation, you then can make a request, as in, honey, please, can we put the toilet paper on with the thing coming off the top rather than from the bottom? Whatever. And then they might go, yeah, sure, no big deal. It doesn't matter to me. Sometimes what the things my husband asks of me, I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't make that much difference to me. So if it makes a difference to you, I'm happy to do it that way. And that happens actually quite a bit. If you make a request and they deny your request, often then there's a discussion where you enter in to an agreement where you say, we can do it this way if you'll be willing to do that thing. You know what I mean? And that's when an agreement comes in. And then if each person keeps their end of the agreement, yay, everybody's happy, everybody's feeling loved and cared for. And then it's where we talked about if one person doesn't keep the agreement, then you make a boundary. And so I think too, sometimes people jump straight to, oh, this bad thing happened. I've got to set a boundary now. And it can come off as like harsh or unforgiving when actually there's a lot of steps that you can try before that so that you can come together more. It's more of a collaboration between the two of you. Side note, a lot of times people say you just have to compromise. And I really don't like the idea that you just have to compromise in marriage. I much prefer the idea of collaboration. The agreements are very collaborative. So let's decide, what do I need and what do you need? And how can we make a situation where we both get what we need? And I'm not perfect. I sometimes don't uphold my end of the agreement. I think we've all experienced that on both ends, where we're the one who's, oh, I'm sorry, I really tried. I think we've all been on both sides of that. It goes one of two ways. If you're more the avoidant type, you pull away. Because if it feels prickly between the two of you, and that creates a distance, and then the other person's, well, I feel like you're pulling away, and they'll feel it. Or if you're more of an anxious attachment style, you'll move in and go, what's going wrong? We need to fix this. Then you get this push pull of the avoidant and the anxious attachment styles that can make it difficult to figure this out. When a person goes, okay, I know where I end and you begin, I know what's right for me, it makes it so that you can move closer to that person and still feel safe and still feel protected and know that you have your own back. And that's why boundaries are so helpful. They're helpful for every relationship, but they're especially important for the people that you're closest with because we want to be close. We have this innate need for connection, for closeness with the people that we love. Without the boundaries, you either have enmeshment where you have to do what I want you to do so I can feel good, or you have avoidance where I'm going to pull away because I don't know if I can trust that you're going to be the way that want you to be. So that pulling away creates a distance that is hard for both of them.
It sounds like boundaries actually help you create more connection by not avoiding and by not creating that enmeshment.
And I think that's why it matters so much to me that people understand this concept so that they can have the beautiful connection, loving relationships that people are just yearning for. People are just craving this connection, and it's lost because we don't know how to be in relationship with each other and keep ourselves safe. But this method of healthy boundaries really helps people have that.
But we have to learn how to be in a relationship with each other and keep ourselves safe instead of expecting the other person to keep us safe. Instead of avoiding, you can actually have boundaries that come from love for you and the other person. And that can be had by communicating and setting up agreements and then learning from both your own and their willingness and potentially sometimes unwillingness to live up to that agreement. And then it also helps for those that can tend to become more enmeshed, meaning that they really believe that if you don't do this thing, if you don't hold up your end of the agreement, then that means either you don't love me or I'm not safe. And that's why boundaries can help in a way that keeps you connected to your partner, to the person that you love, because you're taking care of both yourself and the relationship through these healthy boundaries.
I love the way you said that. That's perfect.
Any final notes that you would want to leave for our audience?
Learning how to set good boundaries, healthy boundaries, is a way of transferring trust. When we grow up, we have to put our full trust in our caregivers because we are literally unable to do anything for ourselves. As we learn how to set healthy boundaries, we transfer that trust in our personal safety from other people to ourselves. When we are able to fully trust ourselves, we're able to go out and be actors in the world rather than being acted upon. We're able to create more. We're able to fulfill our own dreams more. So, this is so important for relationships, but it can also extend far beyond your marriage and into every aspect of your life.
So good. Be an actor instead of being acted upon. It's a great way to end this episode. Thank you so much, Andelin, for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
What will you take away from today's episodes? Here are a few highlights that stood out for me. Boundaries and agreements are not the same thing. Understanding the difference is crucial. Agreements are mutual decisions between partners, while boundaries are personal guidelines we set for ourselves. Strive for collaboration instead of compromise. Collaboration ensures both partners' needs are met, fostering a win win situation, whereas compromise might leave one or both feeling unsatisfied. Healthy boundaries come from love for yourself and the other person. Setting boundaries rooted in love and compassion for your partner strengthens the relationship. Boundaries are meant to create more connection, not separation. Properly set boundaries protect personal well being and enhance intimacy and trust between partners. Thank you for joining us in this conversation with Andelin Price. If you're eager to delve deeper into building healthy boundaries, Andelin is giving you access to her boundaries framework for free. This guide is designed to help you create the loving and connected relationships you desire. To access this valuable guide, get the link in the show notes. Don't miss out on this opportunity to transform your relationships and foster deeper connections through healthy boundaries. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. And then tune in next week for more insights on self trust and personal growth. Until next time, keep trusting yourself because you can. The best way to get what you want is to grow your self trust. And the best way to grow your self trust is in going after what you want the right way. And the Self Trust Lab is here to help you do just that. With the proven 3E success method, you'll cultivate unshakable self trust while making what you want inevitable through practical tools, personalized methods, and master level coaching. Let's turn self trust into your superpower and success into your everyday reality. Join us today at theselftrustcoach.com/the Self Trust Lab.